So, we're sitting here in a beautiful Munich beer garden with the amazing Ann Vriend.
Yeah, that's right.
That's great.
Yeah.
You just recently got an award, 2017 winner of the, what's it called? Cobalt Music Prize.
Yeah.
And you're right now on a major European tour.
Yeah.
And, well, welcome to Munich.
Thank you. Danke.
Bitteschön. How has your tour been going so far?
Good. Really good, actually. We had really good attendance at almost every show and some sold out shows. And I'm almost out of CDs, which is it's a problem, but it's a good problem.
Okay, that's great. That's great. When you read, or when people read your official information, it says that your style encompasses people in the range of Dolly Parton, Cyndi Lauper, Aretha Franklin, Etta James, and influenced by Paul Simon, Leonard Cohen, Cat Stevens. I mean, that's a lot to live up to, right?
Yeah, it is.
And it's all kind of boxes, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
How happy are you with this description?
Well, I understand where each of those comparisons comes from. I think when people listen to the voice, they compare me to Cyndi Lauper or Dolly Parton. If they listen to the writing, they maybe compare me to Paul Simon or Cat Stevens and 70s style songwriters. Carole King is another one. When they talk about the lyrics, and it's more poetic and hopefully along the lines of Leonard Cohen. I don't pretend to reach it. And vocally, like most vocally, Aretha probably.
Okay.
So depending on what part of my sound they're analyzing, then I get these really different comparisons.
How annoyed are you possibly by a visual Amy Winehouse comparison? Because that's the first thing I thought when I just saw pictures of you.
Right.
You know?
Well, I should have been more careful to consciously not dress like her, not do anything like her. I should have really thought about doing the opposites because we look similar. And I love her music. I think she's a great singer and a great artist. So it's a great thing to be compared, but my voice doesn't sound like her voice.
She's more like an alto type.
Yeah, she's a very different voice.
Yeah.
Oh, they're clapping for me.
That's not your applause, but
No,
you truly deserve it.
someone is. They like someone over there.
Only a few hours for your applause later. Okay, so you're from Edmonton, Alberta.
Yes.
What was especially your musical upbringing like?
Well, my parents, a few things I think. I mean, looking back on my childhood now, as an adult, I realized that there were some things that were unusual, which is one that we weren't allowed to watch any television.
Okay.
Right now. Except one kids show that was half an hour every day. And then the other thing is that my parents didn't have any really current records, but they had a lot of records, like vinyl, from the 70s and 60s, but mostly 70s, like singer-songwriter type records, and a few gospel records, like African-American gospel records. And so, because we didn't have TV, we listened to a lot more music, I think, than the average household.
Okay.
And then also, there were some instruments in the house that I just started playing, because you have to create your own entertainment if you're not being given entertainment, you know. So the last thing is that my parents were sort of they are very religious people. And so then they had this thing that they decided to do where after every meal, especially dinner time, we would sing a few sort of Christian campfire type songs, like Kumbaya and that kind of thing. But every day. So I was always singing already very early. Not because I had this idea of becoming a performer, but just using my voice, to sing. So I was always singing. Like they have cassette tapes of me singing, just for hours.
Okay.
Just making up songs and entertaining myself. Like not with any, when you're a kid, you don't have like, I'm gonna have this job. You just do what you do.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So I think, looking back on it now, that probably developed my musicality, all those things.
Okay, it's interesting.
Like a very early childhood, like way long before kindergarten.
Okay.
And then in school, when we had music class, the teacher would teach something and I would learn it first try and then be really bored because everyone else would be so slow. And so she would put me in charge of directing the other kids or making something more complicated for myself because I was so bored. And so, by the time I was in like the 6th grade, I was writing songs for my class to perform, because I just had ideas for it.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
You accompany yourself quite a bit on the piano. You oftentimes work even solo or with small band setups.
Yeah.
How would you describe the way you accompany yourself? Do you have a certain idea? Does it change from gig to gig, or does it stay the same?
It depends on the song a little bit. Some of the genres are more open to improvisation than other ones. So I play, some like blues type songs that have, or groove type songs that have more improvisation in them. And it depends who I play with. Like I just did a tour before this tour in Australia with a different musician who played guitar. So then I was playing bass lines and then for some of the shows we had a bass player also. So depending on the instrumentation that I play with, but also depending on each individual musician, because every musician has a different style of playing, different sound, a different vocabulary. So then I sort of change it, which can be challenging, but it's fun. It's a fun challenge too. Like, ideally, I would like to have like a 7 to 10 piece band and have everything that's in my head played. But it's so expensive that I've sort of developed a way of playing just this very simply and just using a lot of space, like almost space as another instrument, and just really playing the dynamics a lot, like very large dynamic range in the shows as kind of like an instrument, and trying to keep, and that's sort of the way of keeping it interesting, for people.
I don't know who said it, but this is a famous phrase of somebody who said, "The real art is in the way the notes you don't play."
Yeah, I think Count Basie said that. Count Basie, well, he was famous for the notes he didn't play, and I remember learning about that when I was in jazz school, and being like, "Well, that's easy. Anyone could just not play notes all day when you sleep." Like that's so easy. But I mean, the older that I get, the more that I play, the more I understand what that means. And the more nervous you are, the more you speed up and the more notes you play. And the more you really know a song and you realize how little you really have to play to, especially if it's a well-written song, that you don't really have to play very much. So that's the sign, I think, of a mature artist, a mature musician.
I see.
Yeah.
Very good. So we kind of tickled on that question before when you had dinner, because I was going to ask you if you have worked as a session musician in the past, and or if it's in any way appealing to you, and you kind of declined on that prospect.
Well, I love being in the studio, and I love singing in the studio, and I feel confident as a singer, and I love singing backup vocals. I like almost more than lead. Like the technical aspect of singing backup vocals and doing harmonies and coming up with them and layering them exactly, being very precise. I could do that all day. As far as a keyboard player, I just don't feel like I have my own way of accompanying myself. that works for my songs and what I do. But I've sometimes play with other people, but I think I've been hired like twice or 3 times in my whole life to do session work or play live with somebody, because there's far better people at that job. So I sort of consider myself first and foremost as a songwriter, and second as a singer, and then a big gap, and then a keyboard player.
And probably for most, I believe it's almost like a career choice, because it's a whole different scene, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there are a few other, like, I don't know, Steve Lukather or somebody who does total and does sessions, you know, but it's just a very few. But most of them, it's like
it's
two
like
worlds, yeah.
I mean, I just came out of a relationship for 12 years with a session keyboard player who played in other people's bands and was always in the studio, and so I really knew his level of technical and ability to learn songs quickly and do things in voicings and styles and just be able to nail it in time. You know, for me, that would take a lot of practice, and I would still end up with my own kind of very idiosyncratic way of doing it that is for me, but it's just for me, you know? So the few times that I've been hired in the studio is when people are looking for the sound that I have, which is all I can do. Okay. That's it. My resume is like, I do this. I do this thing. That's fun.
Okay. These days, how hard is it to support yourself as a musician, songwriter?
Well, I think it depends who you ask. I mean, there's some people who make millions and billions, maybe not billions, but millions that way, and there's other people who can't make a living at it. So, like, I think it has to do with, you know, how good a business you are, and of course your talent level. But frankly, I think in some ways it has more to do with your ability as a business person, or if you meet somebody who's good at business that is trustworthy that you can work with. So, I mean, it's hard. It is hard, and it's always changing. So you might get used to something. 5 years later, it's not relevant anymore. Like in terms of social media wasn't a thing. Now social media is a thing, but maybe now it's on the decline. Maybe because Facebook is being hacked and people are getting cynical about that, or they don't like the advertisement. So what's the next thing? I don't know. But by the time you finally learn how to navigate a whole system of marketing, it's changed. I mean, for a while Napster was a thing, then it wasn't a thing. I mean, that seems like a million years ago already, but it wasn't that long ago. Or MySpace used to be like this thing that you had to pay attention to, and now it's just gone.
Yeah, it's incredibly fast changing.
You have to be very adaptable and willing to learn and change, and which takes a lot of. But I think, but maybe that's just the world right now. I think we all have to do that, like in everything, with technology, with everything.
So speaking of that, what's your take on music streaming services like Spotify, etc.?
Well, it makes sense why people like it. I have the same problem. I don't have enough room on my phone for everything, and I don't want to have big files on the thing. In terms of the quality level, the actual sonic quality level that Spotify has, which MP3s are already terrible, and then these are even less quality MP3s. So the actual emotional impact that you get from the music is less. And I'm worried about that. It's like only ever seeing really low res photos and thinking that, and then not liking photography, or having photography become less powerful to people because they never see really great photos. But visually, in our world today, we see better and better quality and high definition, but orally, it's going down, and that makes me worried about the value that music is going to have with people. And the other problem is that music is everywhere. Like, there's always background music. Now you have it at the Tankstelle, and you have it in places you go to the toilet. There's music everywhere, and it's always background, but it's always free. And so I have this problem sometimes at a concert where there's all these people that are paying attention, and you can hear a pin drop, and then there's someone in the room who just is so used to music being background, even if they're in the front row, and no one else is talking, and it's so quiet, and they have no idea, they're just blah, 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 and everyone in the room is like, and they just don't know. They're not trying to be rude. It's normal that there's a concert here, but you talk.
They used to have an expression for that functional music. I guess it was in the 70s and 80s called Musak. I don't know if you heard of that. It's like the elevator music,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, but I mean now there's elevator music is everywhere. Like it's more places, and I don't know. I mean things usually go in up and down cycles, and hopefully like it will go down far enough that it will come back up again. I mean I think I already noticed it with people who want vinyl again, and people who want high definition. It's a small subculture of people, but to those people who value quality music and quality sound quality, because it's a drug. It's, you know, if you get music in it and it's really powerful, it changes you like a drug.
Dynamics, especially dynamics. I mean, young people today. I mean, probably it's also the kind of music that is being listened to by young people, but also you don't have dynamics on MP3. It's all compressed.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
So,
I mean, it's mastered as well, right? So there's, even when it sounds loud, it never gets loud. And you know, and I think also that's why when people do go to concerts, which isn't actually very many people anymore.
I mean, that's also that's another aspect of streaming services. I think is that the few money that trickles down on you as an artist.
Yeah.
So even like major artists sort of are forced to go back to touring, which is good in a way. And also, who said that? Somebody said, I thought I was in the music business, but now I realized I'm in the T-shirt selling business.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know?
Because the merchandise, people don't buy CDs or vinyl or whatever. They buy whatever you put your logo on. Like, yeah, it's true. You know, but like, I'm lucky, I guess, that I have a fan base. It's not a huge fan base, but the fans that I do have, they do want the music and they don't care about the other stuff so much. And I mean, I think that, and the people that I see come to my concerts, like music is a drug for them. You know, like I can really tell they're closing their eyes, or they're really getting into it. And then I think another thing that I notice is that they say that they prefer the live concert because I think there's like this dynamic. The dynamics are so much bigger live. Like you can get so quiet and so loud. It's not compressed. And then they get the CD, which is compressed for radio and for all these like technical needs, and they like just don't feel it as much, even though it's well recorded. And I make sure I get good people to do all that things, you know. But it's not the same as being in a room where it can get so loud and get so quiet, and that's where people get goosebumps, right? So, I think in some ways the whole commercial need for things to be compressed for radio and for blah blah for mastering has actually made people's musical experience less. And maybe that will change again. I hope so.
I hope so too. So I have two more questions before we wrap this up. Do you want us to tell anything about your new LP? No, EP is actually. Anybody's different.
Sure, I can say some things. I mean, it's basically the first 5 songs of my next full-length album, and I haven't released an album since 2014, so I thought it was a good idea to have some new stuff, and they're all different songs from each other, but they're all definitely in the R&B umbrella in different ways. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if you want
Okay,
to know more than that.
we just we keep being surprised, and I hope everybody going to have a listen to it.
I hope so too.
So the last question for today is, what does a typical day, a typical touring day, look like for you?
Yeah, that's different than a
typical touring day.
Well, it's pretty boring. It's not going to sound exciting. I mean, we get up. Basically, we check out of the hotel the last moment that we can. So if you know, sometimes you try to use your hotel as much as you can because you don't get a lot of chance in the evening because you don't get in till 2 or 1 a.m. So you try to sleep. And then you get on the road. Maybe get a coffee and a breakfast, and then you just start driving to the next place. And depending on the Stau.
Yeah, tell me about it.
My least favorite German word. And whatever. Then you get to the sound.
Traffic jam sounds sweet, at least. You know?
Yeah, I'm over it. It's like, yeah. Depending on how that goes, you get to the venue first, or you get to the next hotel first. Do the sound check. Maybe quickly eat, quickly change, set the CDs up. Do the show, sign CDs, get pictures with people forever, sometimes, and eventually go to bed and do it all again. So
okay.
The difficulty is, there's 2 difficulties, and one is getting time to exercise. The other difficulty is getting time to practice. Because especially that I play piano, you know, setting up a keyboard in the car, or even just
it's a strain on your muscle, right? And
well, where are you going to plug it? Like, you just can't. Where are you going to plug it in to power?
Oh, okay, I see, yeah.
Or, and then it's just a heavy thing. You need a stand. You need all these different things. And so it's not something you can quickly pull out like a guitar.
I see.
You just sit on your bed in your hotel room and just quickly, you know? And so I play a lot. I play, you know, almost every night on the tour, but it's not the same as practicing.
I see.
Like, you're not working on your weaknesses, you're trying to hide them.
In the early days, classical pianists had these things that you kind of fold. You can fold them up and it has a few keys, but no sound.
Oh.
You just play. You have to imagine the sound, I guess. So I don't know how good that would be, but...
Well, you have to know a lot about music theory to make that work for yourself.
But I think it was Eric Clapton who said you don't get paid for playing, you get paid for the traveling. So maybe that's one way to look at it, you know.
No, I don't think anyone's paying me to travel. In fact, I pay to travel. So I might have to disagree with Eric Clapton, but he's in a different era, you know. Yeah.
So to end this, we're gonna have to, I think, applaud Thomas Reisenstein for equipping you with some awesome gear. Do you want to say 2-3 words about it?
Yeah, well, it's getting to be a long list now. So he started with designing a microphone for me.
Your own signature microphone?
No one else has this except me.
AV
The whole
microphone.
world. Exactly. Genau. And so that was pretty cool. I didn't see that coming, and that was a huge, great shock. And then last tour, he's like, Ann, he sent me a message one day, I designed you this preamp, this vocal preamp. And I was like, oh, you did? Oh, wow. So now I have a preamp, which is beautiful. They're both beautiful, and then together it's so beautiful, so warm, and
it's awesome tube sound, right?
yeah, everything just sounds like anything. You can just play a scale and be like, oh. And then Reed also uses his bass amp and his cab, and which he also really loves. So we basically have almost exclusively Rice and the Same gear.
Well, that certainly makes Thomas Reisenstein very happy, and rightfully so.
One more thing, I also use the keyboard Star.
Oh, the keyboard preamp?
Yeah.
All right, very good, very good.
Like, it's just a long list.
Yeah, quite a long list. Well, then, thank you so much for this interview. Thank you so much for making it happen here. We're looking forward to your concert tonight.
Thanks.
And hope to see you again in Germany soon.
Yeah.
No, Prost.
Okay. Prost. Prost. Bavarian Prost. Cheers.
Sometimes I think